As a result of conversations like the one that we're going to be engaging in today, the GRLI has identified various areas of working on the overarching system of business and management education. And over the years, have been involved in helping catalyze, incubate, initiate actions, networks, and entities. I'm very glad that we're joined today by James Dyke from Exeter. Exeter is one of our partners. The business school is one of our partners. James has been involved in the area of earth system science and has also helped drive the publication of the tipping point report at Exeter, which he may touch on during his opening remarks. We're increasingly trying to help steward the wider ecosystem of networks and associations. And in fact, one of our emergent initiatives is called Be the Tipping Point, which you'll see a little bit more about in the coming weeks.
What we're trying to do here is to reach out from the GRLI into the wider ecosystem to hone in on the situations, the challenges, the issues that have no easy answers. A lot of us coming in the GRLI are or have been academics. We know a whole bunch of stuff. And what we're trying to do is to get to the edge of that, to the places where we're not sure, where we're uncertain, where we still have questions. We're inviting us all to step into the space that is somewhere between a safe space and a brave space. I mean, you're a whole person. So what do you feel about things? What do you think about things? How do things impact on you? Who are you underneath your professional persona? So what are you noticing? What are you seeing is on its way out, is dying or in need of kind of composting? What are the first glimpses of new ways of working or new systems, or the way that the Earth system is adjusting from one mode of operation into another? And then after all of that, what are you left with? James, do you want to take it up from here, maybe?
Right, overshoot. So this is a subset of a talk that I've been giving recently about where we are in regards to just the climate crisis, really. And ultimately, political reasons, well below 2 degrees C was agreed back in 2015. And then in 2021, well below 2 degrees came to be seen and understood as 1.5. So this idea of 1.5 to stay alive, it was considered a victory for those people and places most vulnerable to climate change. Unfortunately, the Earth system has not been listening or paying attention to political platitudes and promises and pledges, because concentrations of CO2 have continued to go up. For the last 12 months have exceeded 1.5 degrees Celsius, the global average temperature. So 2023 was the warmest year that humans have ever recorded, for reasons that we do not completely understand. And 2024 is actually on course to be even warmer. The situation will actually be an awful lot more harder than we realise, and it's already pretty darn hard. So here's a quote that was from COP28 last year. The chair, they had the presidency, and the president of COP28 said, "Be flexible, find common ground, come forward with solutions and achieve consensus, and never lose sight of our North Star of 1.5 degrees Celsius. That's what I'm going to stay laser focused on," right? And I'm sorry, is it really? Is 1.5 your North Star? Because the president of COP28 is also the CEO of ADNOC, which is the UAE's state-owned oil and gas company. And Dr. Sultan Al Jaber has presided over a significant increase in oil and gas production from that oil and gas company. We're going to do whatever we need to do to limit warming to no more than 1.5, or at least well below 2 degrees Celsius. And at the same time, we're going to increase the burning of coal, oil and gas. Greenhouse gas emissions last year were not just higher than the previous year, they were the highest humans have ever produced. The global climate only cares about global emissions and concentrations, and so we still seem to be some distance from even beginning to bend the curve of increasing emissions. So the plan is to overshoot 1.5 and then deploy gigaton scale greenhouse gas removal technologies, such that by the end of the century, we are removing tens of billions of tons of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere a year. In fact, these technologies do not exist. They do not exist at scale. And there is now quite a lot of evidence that when large-scale carbon capture and storage has been deployed largely by the fossil fuel companies. It hasn't worked. What I think we're seeing dying is any hopes to limit warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius. I think there needs to be some very difficult and painful conversations about how we failed, and with a message of yes we can rapidly decarbonize, we can rapidly phase out fossil fuels, and we can do what needs to be done to secure a safe and livable future. No, we didn't act in the time that we could have done and should have done, and we have to own up to the consequence of those decades of failure. So I suppose that would be my call for action as well.
Is there a question for us then, as concerned individuals, as educators, as activists, as leaders? What is a question that would catalyse our thinking and our action?
I was asked to give a comment on a paper that's being published later this week. It's an internationally leading team of climate scientists, and they're looking at the dangers of overshoot. And they said, in light of these irreversible consequences, and also the climate system might be more sensitive than we think, what we should do is probably try and do even more carbon removal. So it was a very frustrating paper to read, because if you accept the science, if you accept we are going to warm above 1.5, then, and some of those consequences are going to be irreversible, but every fraction of a degree matters. So we need to, the faster we phase out means that we can at least limit the damage and suffering to a certain amount. What are the narratives? What are the approaches that we can take with people to get them into the space of looking at the drivers authentically? And that means taking them out of the comfort zone and getting them to reflect on the consequences of their action.
How do we respond when people go back round the loop of business as usual, or more of the same as being the solution, when we know that more of the same has already failed? So what do we do in response to that? So all of that and much more we could take out into the breakout rooms. Okay, are we ready? Okay, so these will be groups of 3 or 4, I think, and we'll all be in, and we'll be in for 15 minutes.